Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to M4J Transport here on Cities in Motion 2. Today we are fixing the Metro as the title of the video suggests. So we are actually rebuilding lines 401 and 402. Technically routes 401 and 402, but we're rebuilding the main track route that those two lines run on. So I'm going to refer to them as lines for the duration of this video. First thing I wanted to fix was this little junction that we've got over here for 403 and 404, because it looked a little bit messy for my liking, and it still does look a little bit messy. I'm still not 100% happy with it, but I wasn't going to fiddle around with it for that much longer because I wanted to get started on today's episode. So you'll notice already that the two new lines actually start directly beneath and perpendicular to the two existing lines here. So 401 and 402 will now start directly beneath 403 and 404. That's done deliberately so that the depots could be shared. So the original depot that we had for 401 and 402 over on the South Island, that will still be staying for the time being, and the trains that are inside it will be staying for the time being until I can find a suitable use for them. But at this moment in time they will not be used for this new route. Also, the depot connection roads that I've got connecting up here, I'm not that happy with them. I think I could have done a better job, but they will do for now. That's my mantra for this, is it'll do for now. Particularly as no passengers are riding on the trains at this point, so ride quality, slope steepness, things like that, it's not that important at this stage. I do make an effort to make sure that this out road is a little bit better designed than the in road. But overall, like I said, no passengers are on board, so it doesn't matter too much. Anyway, so what am I going to talk about in today's episode? Well, since we're doing Metro, and since I've been focusing on efficiency across the city, and in fact, next episode I've already said in last episode is another tracking video, but the video after that, episode 38, is me fixing the buses, and it's the same idea basically as efficiency. The three original depots that you can see next to the Metro depot here for the bus, they are going to be streamlined, made more efficient, made better, hopefully in every respect, but you never know. I'll talk more about that next episode, obviously, because it's got nothing to do with this episode, but for this episode, specifically the Metro, the idea was to make it more efficient, and that's exactly what's happening in London at the moment with London Underground. So, in London, there are currently some lines that work through driver operation, and there are some lines that work through automatic train operation. The best example of automatic train operation is the Victoria line. It is one of the oldest of its kind in the world, if not the oldest. I'm not 100% sure whether it is the oldest or not, but I know for a fact that it was one of the first to use automatic train operation. So essentially, the driver, inverted commas, of the train, all they do is shut the doors and press one button, and then the train drives itself. And it's been doing that since 1967, which is quite impressive and quite groundbreaking. Since then, other lines have started to follow suit. The Jubilee line now, if you go to any of the Jubilee line stations where it runs in the middle of the Metropolitan line, you'll see that the Metropolitan line has signals and the Jubilee line doesn't. Jubilee line is now also automatic train operation. And in fact, let me see if I can find a list of the automatic lines. Let's see. Current status. That sounds good. So, partially automated trains are currently used on the Jubilee, Central, Victoria and Northern. But the Victoria line, I mean, all of them are supposedly partially automated. Fully automated is the doors will open and close by themselves and the train will depart by itself. And even the DLR doesn't have that. There has to be someone on board to close the doors and press the start button, essentially. But that's all they do. And they're called train captains, I think they're now called, or passenger service agents, I think is their new title. Originally it was called train captain, and that sounds really, really like the kind of thing you'd give to a 5-year-old at a holiday camp, you know, train captain. Anyway, we don't help ourselves, rail enthusiasts. We don't help ourselves with some of the names that we give things. I will talk very quickly about the station that you see me building here. So the original, I think this is Lansdowne Park, which was suggested by I want to say Youngwee. I apologise if I do have that wrong. It has been moved. It's now more directly under the pre-metro station, which does create a slight issue because this now technically counts as an interchange, of which Patreon rules apply. But I think for this one I will make a rare exception, and there might actually be another one slightly further along the line, whichever the next station's called. I've forgotten that one as well. But because I moved the station to now make it a fully fledged interchange, it's technically my fault. So I think it'll be a bit of a Mickey take if I then put my hand out and said, oh, you've got to pay for this now. So for this one, and only this one, I will be making an exception where you don't have to be a Patreon supporter. All the rest though, and people have asked me about this, by the way, people have asked me pretty consistently for the last few weeks about naming interchanges and hubs, which to me suggests that they are genuinely interested. However, as soon as I mention the fact that there's money involved and they have to be a supporter on Patreon, which personally I don't like asking for money, but I also don't think that's an unrealistic expectation. You know, if people want to really be involved, then I think they should have to contribute to the upkeep of the channel. It's all well and good naming stops and stations, and that's fine, that's good fun, which I haven't checked for a while actually. Let me check that really quickly and see if there's any new suggestions on there. But there is a point where I think, you know, this is quite a big deal that they're asking me to do, so it's only fair that they put something towards it. I need to fix my website as well. I hate going on here now because there's so much stuff that's broken. I'm not doing it for a uni project now, so I can pretty much do what I like with it. So you'll see some massive changes coming around. Yeah, so there's a couple of suggestions on here for stations that are named after stations on the Piccadilly line in London. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. Piccadilly Circus, Manor House and Cockfosters. Actually, Manor House isn't on the Piccadilly line, I don't think. I think Manor House is just on the subsurface lines. Let me check that. I'm checking lots of things today. I haven't got that long actually. This time lapse doesn't really last that long. I'm pretty much halfway through it already. Let me see. Manor House. As Mansion House. That's on the Circle and District. Manor House. Oh yeah, it's on the Piccadilly. Ah, okay. It's on a bit of the Piccadilly that I don't really go on very often. That'll be why. So yeah, I'm not sure I like that. I'm not sure I like that. I did have a rule about that in the past, and I also have a rule about if you want to name things after people and places, you have to be a supporter on Patreon. So I'm not really sure I like people trying to find loopholes for that. There are some other good ideas on here though. Marco W has started adding suggestions as well. Very new to the series. Big welcome. It might be a couple of weeks before you actually see this, but anyway, big welcome. So we've got Flower Street, Garden Street, English Kills. I'm not sure I like that. That sounds a bit weird. I'm sure it doesn't mean what you what the immediate reaction is. Any stop, preferably close to a body of water, apparently a sort of lake or pond close to New York. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, if it's named after something like that, I'll have to do some reading on that myself just to make sure. Argent Street. Argent means money or silver in French and sounds cool. Yes, it does. Paradise Street, Grim Street. Oh my god. Vertaken Straße. Vertaken Frost, I'm probably butchering that pronunciation by the way, is the translation of the Russian version of Santa into German. Christmas is not that far off anymore, so why not name a stop after it? Well, actually, I have a specific rule that December the 1st is the first mention of Christmas in my life, and January the 6th is the last. Any other mention of Christmas throughout the year, you'll get a very scolding look from me. What else we got? Oh my god. Speculatius Street. Apparently that's food, because he's put it's tasty and more streets should be named after tasty food. So I look forward to Pizza Avenue coming to the city in the near future. Marzipan Museum. You know, somewhere in the world there's a Marzipan Museum. You just know it. There's other weird things that they've put in, but not just put in museums, built whole museums around. Any stop preferably close in proximity to a museum-like building. It must be horrible for a hungry commuter if stops were named after food stuff. Maybe. And then Main Street is the last suggestion. Bus stop in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I think having a stop in the middle of nowhere named Main Street sounds appropriate. That's America, isn't it? They have towns with Main Street, which is literally... I mean, if you watch things like the original Django, not Django Unchained, but Django, there's a bit right at the end where there's a machine gun battle. That road that it takes place on, that little like 20-foot long road, that would have been a main street back in the day. And it would still be a main street if that town was modernized now. They'd still be referring to that road as Main Street. So I'm on board with that idea. As I've said in most of my series, though, it might be a little while before all of these are fully implemented, because there are huge parts of the city that don't yet exist where some of these names would be perfect. So don't be offended if it looks like I haven't taken your suggestions on board. They are all noted and they will all be used. So what was I talking? Oh yeah, I was talking about automatic train control. Jubilee, Central Victoria and Northern are the four. They're the four tube lines, London Underground lines. There are also two other lines that will be joining the party very, very shortly. One of which is Thameslink and one of which is Crossrail. Crossrail will be joining the party last by the sound of things. Thameslink is technically... they're testing the system as we speak, so we're not far off. We're not far off. And then they could do the 24 trains an hour thing. Same with Crossrail. Although Crossrail has now been delayed to autumn 2019. It was meant to be opening next month. Abbey Wood to Paddington, but it's now been delayed by a year. Hopefully, it all goes well. It does mention the driverless Docklands Light Railway. I still argue that the Docklands Light Railway is on the same pattern as the Victoria line in that both have automatic train control, but they both need somebody on board to actually control that as well. The Northern line is the latest, actually, TBTC, which is transmission-based train control, as opposed to CBTC, which is communications-based train control. I believe the difference is CBTC is done through radio signals in the air, whereas TBTC is done through the track. So there will be wiring in the track that knows the location of every train. It's track circuits, essentially. It's a more upgraded version of track circuits. But I watched a video yesterday by Jeff Marshall talking about how the Northern Line signal cabins across the whole network are being closed down because of the new system that's coming in very, very shortly. It's sad that it's happening. Hopefully the buildings get preserved, but it's also good that we're moving forward and providing a better service for everybody. I think TBTC is the system that is actually used on the Victoria line as well. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to check it now because we're running out of time. I will end the video by saying this, guys. OpenTTD last week got 257 views in 7 days. And that series has come back with a bang. This series now has to keep up with that. And I'm not saying 257, but proportionally it has to keep up the views. As you know, series gets cancelled if the views drop below a certain amount. So we need to get the view count up. We certainly need to get the sub count up because OpenTTD has got me so many subs over the last couple of weeks. We need to get this series doing that as well. The idea is to have 2 flagship series with all the other ones just acting as a subordinate to that. So yes, we need to get the view count up, we need to get the sub count up. If you have a Reddit account, people are actually plugging my channel on Reddit, which is great because I'm doing the same thing. But besides that, just share it. Share the channel. That's all you have to do. It takes 30 seconds. Just click a link, click a button, whatever it might be. Share the channel. Let's get more views. Keep this series going for the foreseeable future. Until then, though, guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And, of course, if you enjoyed the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. And do check out the name suggestions list at m4jmedia.com. And either just check them out or add your own. Besides that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. We are actually very, very close to 1,000 subs now. It would be lovely to hit 1,000 subs either before Christmas or before New Year. Either of those would be absolutely perfect. So if you haven't already subbed, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.